we are happy to share our practical experience in terms of the running the large-scale projects, which is the impact evaluation projects. And today we are using the case that we are working on the projects which is belong to the Special Olympics International, and it is related to the inclusion, social inclusions of the students with the special needs. So before I come into the discussions and sharing information with you, I would like to give the information to the audience that we will have 5 panelists that's coming to the discussion. However, the question and answer will be coming to the end, and you will also use the question and answer box that is available in the Zoom to post your questions, and then at the end of the seminar, after the presentation is end, so that we can, I basically address the questions that are raised by the audience. All right, so that will be the process. So myself will go through the main slide, and also the other speaker will be coming in between, presenting and also sharing their views based on, the experience that they have. So today we have 5 speakers. One is myself, Warawet Cholasins from AIT Extensions of AIT, which is Asian Institute of Technology located in Thailand. Second one is Miss Rebecca Rostan. She is the team leader of the Young Athletes Projects International, which is she is working in the Special Olympics International. She is based in US, and she can come to meet us today with live broadcasting. So Rebecca will come to see you after some time. And next is Miss Ashlyn Smith. She is the lead researcher of the Special Olympics. She cannot join us today. However, we have her video, sharing information with you. And we also have Professor Kampana Sharma from MIT School of the Special Education from India, Noida. And she worked with AIT as the national partner for research implementations and data collection for impact evaluations. And we also have Ms. Rachani Wanbulkun. She is the national director of the Special Olympics Thailand. So these are 5 speakers. Before we are going to the webinar, I would like to invite Dr. Jonathan Shaw, Executive Director of AIT Extensions of AIT, and Dr. Shaw was the Project Director of this program at AIT. Dr. Shaw, please.
Thank you, Kunjo, and a very warm welcome to everybody, and thank you to all of our colleagues around the world who are coming together in different time zones. I think this is a format that now everybody is very familiar with, and therefore one that hopefully will not yield too many surprises. But I would like to thank all of the colleagues on my team who've been involved in putting this together and expanding their own expertise in the area of webinars and online learning opportunities. So I think it's been an extraordinary time for all of us, and I've reflected over recent months a lot on what it means to be involved in special education at this particular time. These are particularly challenging times for children with special needs, primarily because social distancing as a concept is being promoted around the world as the if not the panacea, but the solution to the challenges of operating in these pandemic times. And yet in the special education domain and in the sports domains, social distancing is a challenge. So I think this project does not directly address all of those concerns. It has a much broader scope. But I think these are the challenges that we face going forwards. Is how do we engage in the kind of activities that we all know are important, and at the same time create opportunities for children with special needs. So I think that this is an extraordinary opportunity to reflect on the successes and the challenges of the program. And I am simply here to welcome you, to listen and to learn. And I will stay around and listen and look forward to the Q&A when we all have a chance, perhaps, to ask questions and reflect on the expertise of the panelists. So again, thank you to all of you, especially our colleagues in the US. I think it's quite late there now. But thanks to everybody for joining this panel, and we look forward to a very productive, informative, and interesting session. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Dr. John Cho. So Dr. John Cho was very supportive in the project in the past 3 years. So we had to do a lot of work in these projects. We also have a lot of people that helping us. So that's why we call this is a kind of a sharing of the project management in a very large scale type. So now I will go to some of the slides to share you with some information before I'm coming to the next speakers. The topics today, we would like to talk to you about the background of the social inclusion interventions. As you may know, that the case study of this is the inclusions that we try to engage the children with the intellectual disabilities aged from 2 to 10 years old, so that this is part of the inclusiveness that we are driving together all around the regions hosted by the Special Olympics International. The second one is the purpose of the impact evaluations, the key features of the impact evaluations that the researchers, the practitioners should know before they conduct the impact evaluation exercise. And the third is the what do we mean by large scales? I mean, we can define different large scale, but this is actually large scale of the project impact evaluation is based on AIT perspective. And number 4 is what are the things that we use as the measures to evaluate? We are project evaluators, impact evaluators. We have came across a lot of measures and indicators that has been promoted worldwide. So what about in this situation? Do we have to look at the effectiveness? Do we have to look at the efficiency? Do we have to look at the relevance of a project? So what are the things which is very interesting in this particular project? And the fifth one is we are looking at the research design, and this will not go very in depth into the very theoretical perspective, but more on the practical perspective that we have to handle large size of sample size and 4 countries. So this is something that very practical that we can get some information about this. We also have to deal with many stakeholders, research stakeholders in the projects. We don't have only the key informants, we don't have only the target audience, but also partners that we are working in order to collect data and also collect information to feed in the data. We talk about the data collection. We also share with you some of the challenges. You might take away some of the information. You have to be cautious, or you have to be, careful when we are, say, go with the field data collection. What things that we need to prepare before that, so that we can have data as we wish to have, and some lessons learned and conclusions. And after that, we go to the Q&A session. So the social inclusion project, which is related to the children with special needs. So as in this case, we're referring to the Young Athletes program of the Special Olympics. And actually, this program has been done, around the world in many regions. And this is also was hosted by Rebecca. And Rebecca has to work with many partners and also Special Olympics, national Special Olympics, in order to implement this Young Athletes program, which is related to sports activity for the young kids. The second, background is to prepare, to have the children with the intellectual disability to have the readiness to be able to receive the intervention, so that they can live with other people, play with other people, and also have relationship with the people in the families and in the community at large. The entry points of the interventions is the schools, is the child centers, is the community centers, and also the thing that we think that this would accelerate the inclusions to be happen, within the project timeline, so that when we are going to do impact evaluation, we can, get data as we wish to have. There are a lot of, stakeholders that we have to interact with in order to get information, like schools, the family members, service centers, and social service centers. Even, sometimes we also have to interact with the siblings of the young children, as well as the peers, the students who are studying in the school, but they are normal students. They don't have any special needs for that, so we also have to interact with. We also broaden the partnership with MIT University, for example, University of Punjab in Pakistan, and also in Thailand, and also in Bangladesh, in order to create the pool of the resource person, co-researcher that can work on data collections and also processing data, so that we can have the big database that provide for further analysis. And actually, this is the model that we use. Actually, the program, Rebecca, can explain you better than this, is that looking at the sustainability of the inclusiveness in terms of the children behaviors, and also how they behave with the family, how they behave in the school, and also what is the tendency that they would have the relationship with the community at large. So instead of looking at a separate system, so we can try to see what will be the strengths of each social unit, until from small unit to the bigger unit, and this we can see how this can be replicate into the reality when we have to enhance the inclusiveness. So this is the big pictures of the Young Athletes program, which is introduced from the Special Interview International. Now I would like to invite Rebecca Ralston, the project director of the YA programs, to tell you insights about these projects. Rebecca, please.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vauravat, and thank you all for allowing me to speak with you and share a little bit more about our project and about how we got here, and hopefully then to hear from the rest of the team about the outcomes and the process along the way. So just to give you a little bit of a background about Young Athletes as a whole, Young Athletes is an inclusive play program. It's really meant for children with and without intellectual disabilities to come together through play, using developmental activities to ensure that children can be successful, can develop skills, both physical, motor skills, cognitive skills, learning skills, all of these critical skills that really ensure that they have the opportunity to be successful. And we use sport as Special Olympics as our tool, as a change agent, and see it as a really impactful way to change not only the child, but the family and the community overall. We've been doing Young Athletes now around the world for about 15 years. And what originally started as a program for families, it was really meant to be a parent and a child learning to play together. And so we could support our children and our families before they could become Special Olympics athletes at the age of 8, but has really blossomed into a program that supports children through school-based activities, community-based, and then home-based as well. And so it's those three models that really started this project and gave us the opportunity to see how it was impacted and see the work that we were doing. In 2017, we started a project with the IKEA Foundation that was a 3-year project to grow and expand young athletes across India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Thailand. And it was really an adventurous project that has come to a close now, wanted to look at both what the growth was of young athletes and how we could showcase a variety of different growth and new methods for innovation in our practices through this project. But in addition to growth, we really wanted to look at the impact of the program and how young athletes was not only impacting children, but also their families and communities. Based on past research we've done around young athletes, we know that children, or we've seen that children develop in their motor skills. So for 2 months of participation in young athletes, they grow about 7 months of developmental skills. And so one, we wanted to be able to test that same motor skill adaptation to see if that was the same in different contexts, in global contexts. But we also really wanted to look beyond just the motor skills. We wanted to see what other impacts, because we'd heard from families about the ability for young athletes to change behaviors, change social skills, and really support children in all of these different ways, because play is such a critical component to development. So we wanted to use this evaluation as really an opportunity to see what young athletes is doing and see in such a large data set across this multi-year project, what impact that we could see in both our program, on children, on families, on family attitudes, on their resiliency, their stress, and then on communities. And I think the communities piece is such a huge piece for us as an organization. Our focus is really on how do we ensure change and change in attitude towards people with intellectual disabilities. And we recognize that if we live in a bubble and we don't support people with intellectual disabilities integrating into the community and being well received in that space, that we're really just creating our own world and not opening up the world as a whole. And so we also wanted to make sure that the programming and the work that we're doing has this broader community impact, not only for adults in the community, but for young children, for their peers. So understanding how their peers without intellectual disabilities viewed children with disabilities, and really getting to see such a great benefit. So we're very excited to embark on this journey of evaluating our amazing Young Athletes program, and really see the results of this work in being critical to the future of young athletes and the future of our ability to implement the program around the world, and to bring these socially inclusive practices to children, to families. I know, Jonathan, you mentioned talking about all of our families are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic right now and trying to figure out how to be socially isolated while still being inclusive. And one of the things that we found is that having this foundation of play, even if we're playing at home right now, and not in our school or in our community, but that can be a really comforting and positive thing for children. And so I think I'll just close briefly by just saying thank you to our AIT partners here. This was obviously a very large and multi-layered project. Myself and our team, we did very little when it comes to the actual implementation and execution of this project. All of that work and effort goes to our local teams in Special Olympics Bharat, Special Olympics Pakistan, Special Olympics Bangladesh, and Special Olympics Thailand, as well as AIT and all of our local university partners across the 4 countries, who did amazing efforts to collect all of the data and meet with all of the families and children. So I'll just say that obviously none of this would be possible without this very large team. So thank you so much for your efforts, and we're excited to dig into the rest of the presentation and learn more about the work.
For your information about the details and also the specialty of this of these projects. So colleagues, actually, when we are working this, when we are running the impact evaluations, we may consider that the evaluators are third party, but actually no, because when we have to evaluate the interventions are full of the technicalities that the evaluator may not know exactly, or may not know all the details. So we have to work in partnership in order to make sure what is the actually impact that the intervention would like to achieve, so that we interact a lot with the Rebecca teams to make sure that when we are designing the research, when we are designing the tools, is really meeting the expectation of the projects, and the impact would or not or will not create from that project. So rather than working as a separate companies or entity, in many cases we have to interact, we have to create together, we have to make things clear together, and actually we have to move along in terms of the impact evaluation exercise together. So the impact of the interventions is the project's owner would decide that. The evaluator rather have to make sense of the design of the impact evaluations that go in line with the expectation of the projects, right? And partnership, collaboration, interaction, synergies go along together is very important. Last at this point is that, as Rebecca said, it's full of qualitative data. We have found a lot of challenges that is full of qualitative data that we have to involve it. So if we don't consult with the project's owner or the specialist or technicality on the project side, the evaluator will not be able to make sense of any designs or the tools or the samples or the way that we are going to go about the impact evaluation. So very important that we work in partnership in order to do the impact evaluations. So before I go further, I would like to show a quick video clip to have you see the pictures of how the process of the inclusiveness that we are trying to do, or SO Special Olympics trying to do, is look like by a short video, please.
When I play, I can do amazing things. I can run, I can jump, and I'm still learning to do more.
Special Olympics young athletes helped young children around the world discover their abilities and develop their strengths through the power of sport and play. Young Athletes introduces basic sports skills like kicking and throwing through fun activities to children with and without intellectual disabilities, ages 2 to 7. Children of all ability levels participate, and they all benefit. They develop important motor skills, grow stronger, build confidence at every milestone, and learn to interact and communicate with others. Families share in the fun and learn to support their child's development. And everyone learns acceptance and friendship. With activities in more than 125 countries, Young Athletes reaches children around the world, giving families, communities, and schools the tools to create inclusive environments and help children of all abilities unlock their potential and envision brighter hopes for the future.
I love to play. It makes me happy to play with friends, and it helps me be the best I can be. So come on, let's play together.
Right. So that's the video about the big pictures of the intervention project, which we call the Young Athletes programs. When it's come to the projects evaluations, it's a bit like academic research. We have the research questions clear is very important. And when we were explained on these two research questions by the project host, the Special Olympics, is made AIT very clear of actually how the impact evaluation would go, to which directions and to which probable interpretation that we could have. I don't think it doesn't matter how many research questions that we have, but it's matter that research question should be bold in a way that have everybody, stakeholders, be able to understand and carry on the research together. Because at the end of the day, it's not evaluators that making the evaluations. We have to engage all the stakeholders to provide information, to make sense of the results, to make sense of the evaluation as a whole. So the research questions are very important to be able to identify the correct questions. So for instance, for this intervention, we have the two research questions. Is that just the Young Athletes program support the children in terms of the skills. So one of the questions is related to the skills, the social skills, the skill to relationship, the difficult behaviors. And also another research question, is there any differences of different settings that we would like to compare? So as we know that we would like to compare and confirm the inclusiveness, break down into different units of the possible inclusions into the families, into the schools, and also into the community. So we want to find out whether these are differences so that we can make a right recommendation for a better, inclusiveness intervention in the future. So once the research question decide, it helps a lot to the evaluator to be able to break down into the smaller questions and go into the elements of the parameters and also the measure for measurement. So the research question has been given by the Special Olympics in the term of reference to AIT. So we walk through these research questions. Whenever we have doubt, when we feel that we also miss the directions, we have to open the research questions and we feel, more confident and happy about that. One of the definition of the large scale is the complication of the things. Not only that we have to deal with the difficult behaviors, we have to deal with the challenges that the key informants of these projects cannot directly give information to us. We have to get the information through the caregivers, get information through the teachers, get information to the parents, get information from their peers. So that is very huge concern and huge challenge that we are facing. Secondly, is the thing that it is dealing with the social behavior of the young kids. And we are going to use the social behaviors of the young kids to make sense of the inclusion solution. So this is the whole thing about coming from the individual target groups members, going to the large scale of the inclusiveness that we can find the solution in the later stage. And we also have to deal with the skills of the target audience in terms of the not only social skill, but also ability to play sports and also to do activities. All right, so we go for the motor skill. We go look at the eyes-hand coordination, which AIT haven't heard anything like this before. Also, we have to learn from the specialists from the Special Olympics to understand this, to make sense of the tool, and also relationship with families, and also the difficult behavior in order to, explore whether there can be some inclusion solution that can be resolved by the relationship between the young kids and their family members. Another thing that we normally say is this large scale that we have to deal with, 6,500 data to be collected from the 4 countries, Bangladesh, Thailand, Pakistan, and India. So for India, we have to collect 3,000 audience of young children with intellectual disability. For Thailand and Pakistan, 1,000 each, and for Bangladesh, 1,500. So this is a last thing which we have to be able to reach out to the young kids with the age of 2 to 10, and they also have to participate in the YA program. We cannot pick up anybody, but anybody who are joining the YA program, Young Athletes program, because they are the target audience that we are going to prove that intervention work or doesn't work. So it's a huge size of the sample that we have to do. At the end of the day, AIT have to provide the data set in the database of more than 60,000 data points. And these data points is not collect once, is collect in different phases, and it must collect from the same person. So this is something that huge responsibility, huge commitment, huge ethical matter that we have to deal with, and the number itself. So I would like now to show you the interview video of Ashlyn Smith, who is the lead researcher. She's going to tell how important the measures is going to be prescribed so that the evaluators can use that measures to make sense in terms of the tool and also apply that into the research design. So we will show you the Ashlyn's video and explain about the complexity of the data collections, research data design and data collection.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashlyn Smith and I work for Special Olympics on our research and evaluation team. I know that Rebecca Ralston just spoke to you and gave an introduction to young athletes at Special Olympics and why it's important to understand the impact of young athletes on children's development over time. I am going to talk to you today about the research itself and how understanding developmental impacts for young children can be important for social inclusion. For this impact study, we collected data from over 5,000 children and their families over the course of 3 years. This data was collected across 4 countries, including Bangladesh, Pakistan, Thailand, and India. We collected data on motor skills, social skills, challenging behaviors, as well as data from families. I'm going to start by talking about why social skills and reducing challenging behaviors are important for social inclusion for young children with disabilities. Well-developed social skills can help youth with disabilities develop strong and positive peer relationships, succeed in school, and as they get older and move through adolescence and become adults, they'll be able to better handle roles such as employees, co-workers or colleagues, as well as community members. For young children, for example, being able to handle changes in routine without getting upset, sharing toys, and taking turns during play are all going to be important when children are with peers in the community or in school. And importantly, young athletes helps develop these skills, setting the stage for young children to be more socially included as they get older. The same thing goes for challenging behaviors. When young children with disabilities are able to learn how to regulate and manage their emotions, they will be better able to sustain positive interactions with peers, as well as be better able to pay attention in school. For this study, we collected data at several different time points over the course of the 3 years. We collected data before children participated in Young Athletes, at 8 weeks when Young Athletes ended, and then for all participants, we collected data at 20 weeks follow-up. For a smaller sample of children, we collected data even further along, 40 weeks, 60 weeks, and 80 weeks post the completion of Young Athletes. Collecting data before participation in Young Athletes and at the end of Young Athletes allows us to determine the immediate effect of the intervention. Just answer a simple question: did Young Athletes work? Collecting data at follow-up time points allows us to see if any of the immediate impacts that we saw in the intervention are maintained over time. For young children with disabilities who may be delayed in their development, understanding how they improve over time is important for understanding the effect of our intervention, as well as the effect of development and other therapies they may be receiving. As I said at the beginning, this study included data from over 5,000 young children and their families. That is a great sample size. That sample size allows us to conduct very strong statistical analyses that give us more reliable and precise results. However, with the benefits of a large sample size also come some challenges. There are specifically challenges when analyzing data from large samples and when samples are taken from different countries. With such a large sample size, it can take time to put data into the format where you can even begin to analyze the data. Data has to be merged across all countries and across all time points. This means that there is a higher possibility of making some errors that can make not only the data analysis, but any of our findings unreliable. Luckily, there are procedures that we can conduct before we do our main analysis that can help us detect some of these errors. This is called data cleaning, and it's really important to clean your data before you do any statistical analysis. Another thing to consider is how the data was collected and who collected the data. When different people collect the data, it can make it challenging to interpret the results. For example, in one country, teachers collected the motor skill data, while in another country, trained researchers collected the motor skill data. While we hope that teachers and trained researchers collected the data in the same way, we can't always be sure. And in this case, it can sometimes undermine the reliability of the data. These are all things to account for when we conduct statistical analysis. Although some things we can control, like data cleaning, some things we can't control, like who collected the data. So in that case, we just have to make sure to address that when we are interpreting our findings. But I think the really great thing about this study was that we were able to include a control group of children with disabilities. Control group can also be called a comparison group. When we are looking at changes in developmental skills over time for children, it is important to have this comparison group. And importantly, this comparison group includes children who did not participate in Young Athletes. This is really important because if you find that children with disabilities showed improvements from the beginning to the end of Young Athletes in social or motor skills, for example, you cannot say if those improvements were due to the intervention or due to general development that happens with all children if you don't have this comparison group. However, if we have that comparison group of children who did not participate in Young Athletes, then we can say that any improvements that we see in children who participated in Young Athletes are due to the intervention and not due to just general development. And what we would like to see is that all children improve, but that children who participated in Young Athletes improve more. So it was great to work on this study. It was a great learning experience to work in these global contexts, which I had not done before. And it gave us a great way to understand how Young Athletes is having an impact on all areas of development, not just on motor skills, which is what we've seen before. So if you have any questions about any of this research, feel free to contact us. And thanks for letting me talk to you today. Bye, everyone.
I would like to highlight some of the things that Ashlyn has said by this slide. I will not go through this all, but you see, it is like a magic that who knows that there is something inside the individual that can create the relationship or impact to the next level, and that can also create to the next level if we can lift up some barrier of that, and that maybe open the window for social inclusions. Ashlyn also mentioned about the control groups, and this is very crucial if we are doing impact evaluations and we are not able to justify that we are able to compare between before and after. I think that will be something can be goes wrong with the evaluation results. So the control groups, although it was painful to have that, and also we still need a lot of resource and time to be able to come with a control group without interventions. And we also have the experiment group with intervention. So the control group is very, very crucial so that we can have the comparisons to say that is that impact happened or the same or not happened. And also, as I said, in terms of the sustainability, actually, we are talking about the sustainability. The question is when we have to measure it. And sometimes evaluator cannot determine that because we don't know the natures of the projects. We don't know the features of the target audience or beneficiaries. So we have to discuss with the team as a Special Olympics, to define what is the time points that can help us to be able to make sense of the measuring sustainability. So Ashley has said that we have to start with we have to start with the 8 weeks time points. We have to start, then we go for this 20 weeks time points, 40 weeks and 60 weeks. So this is the time point where we are going to collect data and also use that data to measure the progress or the improvement of the skill and also the behaviors. Having said that, the project intervention timelines might also give the limitation for that. And we had the limitation. We cannot stress the time points because the project's timeline is just the school period, the school terms. So that's why we have also to kind of have a solution to manage that in order to make a lot of good justification. That is the cut time point, we collect data, cut time point, we collect data, and that we can clearly see the progress that can tell the nature of the trends, both practically and statistically. Ashlyn also mentioned, so at the end of the day, the evaluation team has to simplify things. So simplification is very important, and it has started from the research questions. So we have to look at what are the target audience that we are going to measure the impact. So in this case, we have the child impact measures, the individuals inside the persons, and that the child impact measures that we have to measure. And then we have the societal impact measure, which is the smallest unit is the family as the impact measures. And then we have the community impact measure. And this, from the research questions, is lead to the breakdown of the possible simplified boxes where you can go further for the make sense of the development of the research tool. Okay, so this is after we have the categories of the organization charts of the measures, then we break down that into the tools. And actually, the parents of these charts are the research questions. And if the research question is clear, solid, then we can break down this and we can see our futures of things are possible in a large-scale impact evaluations. We don't bother around and we don't, roaming around trying to try to find things that may not usable, but we try to make focus on the things that it is important for us to use as a tool. So you can see various tools we use. For instance, in the middle of the slide, you can see we also have the tool for stress test of the parents, because if the stress is more in the family, that can also perhaps impact the relationship. And that impact relationship is mean that perhaps the trends of having inclusiveness at the family level, if it is happening in every unit, then maybe the trend is not so good. But if the stress is less, then maybe the trend can be good. On the resilience side, how far the parents would adjust to the difficult behavior of the child. So even this, can also project how the inclusions can be, harvested using finding out a result from this study. So this is very important that we have to work on the research frameworks and the design framework that we are going to the tool and developments. So in this research, you can see that we have a lot of key informants. For instance, the caregivers. All right, some of the young children, they don't have parents, they have caregivers that spend a lot of time for them. So the caregivers can be also somebody who give the data about the young children. All right, the teachers, the family members, the peers, and also the people in community. And these people should be part of the project. They are part of the project because they have to be part of the intervention. Otherwise, we should not collect data from them. So this is something that very tricky and very scientific when we are going to do the impact evaluation. Every time we have to make sense that the data that we are collecting is coming from the logic frame of the impact evaluations before and after all the time. And we also looking, as I said, we are looking at the control group, we are looking at the intervention group as a YA groups, and then if we are going to look at the sustainability, one time point will not tell us, or we cannot tell the donor agencies that one time points or few time points, we can ensure that there is a tendencies of growing of the sustainability. So we decided, actually the SO Special Olympics decided we have to have more time points, and we have to collect data on these time points many times. And actually in between of these time points, for instance, at the 40 weeks of the developments or skill development, at the 40 weeks and 60 weeks, we also have some other tools like interview tools, focus group, and observation also part of the analysis. So the triangulations of the data from different angles, or a preparation of the research team or the evaluator in terms of the ability to triangulate the information is very important. Although it's not prescribed in the TOR, term of reference, on that we have to use different tools, but the evaluator should also anticipate of the possible triangulations ability that they can make sense of the data information that they want to give as a result. And then when it's go through different forms, just a little bit about the evaluation forms that using the social science research tools is very specific, and anybody cannot develop this. We have to depend on the specialists, academicians, and specialists in the schools of the physical education, social science, and we have to depend on that tool. Our job is to see whether these two make sense to our measurements, and is this also applicable to the measurements. We cannot, in many cases, create the same our own tools on the time, because we don't have that specialties, and also the validity that the tool we use is also sometimes is not supporting the research. So we also have to bear in mind that we have also to depends on the tool which is available, and that tool has to adjust it and make sense to the survey. So this is the first thing about the tool. The second things that our team personally, we learn is that since this is the human being as a research material, so we have to get approval from the research ethics committee of the institution. So it is very important when we are dealing with this, the consent from the beneficiaries, consent from the audience who are joining these projects as the key informants has to be given to the research team, so that we can, confidently run the project without, confronting or, breaking the rule of the ethical code of conduct in the universal scientific research on this. So it has a long a time for processing the tool and also get approved by the committee. So if this require, I think colleagues there has to also prepare some time, for making sure that the tools are reviewed by the research committees before we implement the projects. And when we implement the projects, these large-scale projects, we cannot work alone. We have to work with different partners. We have to work with the national partners, where we have to reach out to our networks down in those countries. Although those countries working separately, we are not, crossing the program together, but we have to work in the same fine-tune of the tools. So we have to work with the national partner. And one example that we have the representation of the national partner agency is Professor Kalpana Sharma from MIT Schools of the Physical Education. So Dr. Kalpana will share her experience on her working on these impact evaluation projects. So Professor Kalpana, please.
Thank you, Joe. So good morning, one and all. I think I've been listening through the whole session since beginning, and what Joe, Rebecca, and Ashley have said, that structuring large-scale projects basically requires a big coordination between the teams, whether they are research teams or whether they are implementers teams or any teams. And I would like to take you on a brief journey. I will say it was a very huge data which India was handling, but certainly any researcher who would like to actually do the research on a large data has to understand the journey we have taken, because we were really handling big numbers. We were handling numbers which were on various states, not only states, but they were also on the various locations. And as you know, geographically, India is a huge nation. Language wise, differences every 10 kilometers, there's a different language. Weather wise, different weathers. Habits of eating of anybody different. So these were a lot of challenges which our Indian team had faced during this project. But first of all, I would like to really thank Special Olympics International, who had considered us through Special Olympics Bharat, because in awarding this project to us, starting something of that magnitude, I think, first of all, I really appreciate by them to choose us to be their partners. Once we were the partners, we were not actually anticipating in totality what we have stepped into. And it's a 3-year project, as Joe has very rightly said. So what is going to come, or how we are going to plan? I think what we were doing at our level was, we were taking the instructions which were given to us by the lead partner. In our case, it was AIT Thailand, and AIT Thailand was taking the finalizing the tools, the research questions, the output models through the SOI team, and especially with Ash and her team. So what we did, we had a challenge of numbers when it came to the Indian counterpart, and we had almost 3,200 data. And as very rightly said, there were a lot of data points also. So how we managed, I'll take you through a very quick, very small journey, I will say. So we had collected the data, as very rightly said, that there was a control group and there was a experimental group. And there were 3 cohorts in which we had done. So pre 8 and 20, and for the control, they went to 60 and also 80 weeks. So what we did, we had actually demographically divided our country into 3 zones. And we had the northern zone, we had the southern zone, and we had the eastern states. Each states, we had taken 5 states as sample. And accordingly, we had identified through the help of Special Olympics Bharat, the locations, so that we could meet the number of the required samples. So accordingly, we had set our framework of taking the data at the data points. So actually, if the listeners would like to understand how we had gone through it, we had actually strategized completely as when we were having workshops with SOI and SO Bharat, we were understanding the magnitude in what we are stepping into it. So slowly we had to strategize our data collection process, our data arranging format, our data uploading format, and that all had to be really monitored by a good team. So our first step was that we had actually tried to develop capacity in forms of volunteers. And when we tried to develop the volunteers, we took a profile of the volunteers who were not only of the same age range, but they varied in the age range, they varied in the experience, and they also varied in the experience of the research. So hence, once they were given workshops, they were made to understand the process. They were made to read the various survey tools. I understand what Ashley said, that there may have been issue in data collection at times because of the various teams doing the data collection. Absolutely right. But efforts have always been made to standardize that data collection process by having a lot of trainings gone into it, a lot of workshops going into it. But yes, managing all that was a very tough call for us. But though we had dedicated rooms for that, we had dedicated shelves for that, we had dedicated teams for that, who were engaging themselves not only into data collection, data sorting, data arranging, and also monitoring the data uploading processes. And finally, of course, that was also a good challenge for us initially when the pre-data was being done, and that was of the data cleaning. So we were learning by ourselves, making people learn, and that's how we were also evolving into a process of research management. And yes, all these were a lot of challenges also with us, because approximately whatever time we were investing into it, every day we had to invest time into it so that everything is sorted. So this my experience, and my primary thing to the listeners will be, if they are interested in taking up large data, whatever work plan they create, the work plan has to be created and followed so that there is no challenge when we come to the end of the data collection. Because our task primarily as India lead partners was to have a data collection, data uploading, and also the data cleaning. So these were the aspects with which we were working. And yes, we did create a value out of the whole project. We did try to do an international conference. We did quite a lot of workshops, and in this international conference, we had representation of all the SOI, the SO Thailand, and other regions who were part of this conference, and we had sharing of the learnings in this international conference. So this is about what the conference we had done, and you can very rightly see all the states and the photographs. I have omitted deliberately the photographs because Joe has already beautifully shown the journeys even of our country to you. So these are the states which you can see: Punjab, Rajasthan, Mumbai, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Delhi, Haryana. These are all our regions where we had gone for our data collection points. I want to share two stories with you, and I want to share because we are talking about social inclusion of children in particularly. So I want to share two of my personal journeys with you. The first personal journey I want to share is not only with me, with the whole team from Amity who were engaged in this. I had Professor Jayanti with me, I had Dr. Ajit with me, and I had a research project associate. I had a research assistant with me, and all these journeys which all of us have gone, actually we also had a transformation of ourselves. Same thing, our students who were working as volunteers with us, they also had a journey of understanding children, of playing with children. We took a feedback after the project. All of these children, 51 of them, they said, "Ma'am, if you have something else for us to do, please let us know." So inclusion not only on the other side of the children into the society, but inclusion also into how we have interacted and how our children have also understood to be with these children. This is one journey. The second journey I wanted to talk to you, that many of the children's schools, they were very, very happy with the kit which was given to them, and they all have responded in very affirmative when we say that the kit has become a big motivator in the sustainability of the young athlete program. So I think the motivation lies not only in the exercise, not only in the part of having it done, but also on making it colorful, making it interactive for the children. So the kit was a very, very big motivator because that we have followed from the pre to the 8 to the 20 weeks program. Wherever we have gone for data collection, we have seen that the teams were ready with the kit. The children were highly excited about using the kit all the times. And the second sharing of experience I have, some of the institutions in our country, I can give you the location also. It is in Andhra Pradesh. It is in Vizag, basically. It is in Telangana. And in Telangana, one of the schools, they have adopted and they have made dossiers of the children because they have adopted the concept in totality that we will see the journeys of these children transforming into athletes. So they had made dossiers of these children. They had assigned teachers And those teachers were actually mentoring those children, and they had only a strength of 8 to 10 children. So such a beautiful concept was created at the Vizag school. And once they will mentor them, the students, the children will be, the young athletes, in fact, will become our athletes tomorrow. So that journey of sustainability can be tracked by re-observing those points also. And very rightly said by Joe, that we can always go back and observe our control group, provided the resources are with us. And for the children, especially when we used to reach into the schools, the children used to feel very excited. Not only the children, but their parents had an expectation. The parents had an aspiration that if we have come there, and they were looking forward for some solutions always. So such are the journeys which we have had. It's been a great learning experience. It's been great to be associated with the team of AIT. It's been great to know our Special Olympics Bharat much more. It's been great to know the team from Bangladesh. We met all at a workshop at Thailand, Bangkok, which AIT had organized. It was great to learn, interact with the team of SOI, the research team of SOI, and it's been good. And we are now doing a unified school project with SOI, and I look forward to have more such interactions with SOI and AI teams in the future. Thank you all, and thank you really for giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Professor Kalpana. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Professor Kalpana.
Thank you
for your explanation. So this is reflecting Professor Kalpana's talk about the data collection management. So I just want to highlight some of this point. Number one would be the, as Rebecca has mentioned and Ashley has mentioned, how we can train the enumerators and co-researchers and data collectors to have the same understanding of every tools. Because when there is a comparison between the region, although we are not mixing the regions, parents will not come to the different countries. So we have to train them into the same level of understanding and also the ability to use tools. So the training of the national teams and the co-researchers and data collectors and enumerators is very important. And that's why we needed to have a research manual that contain all the tools with the also trainings and practicing and all those things. The second thing that it was very unique for us because I guess for us this was the first time, is that after we collect data in the papers, we have the data collectors input the data, review of course to check the papers. Then we input the data into the so to say a Google Forms, and these Google Forms can receive the data and it will transfer into the spreadsheets, a Google spreadsheets that can be transferred to the, so to say, spreadsheets like Excel. So we check the data that is coming as a raw data. So the managers of the site, research site, has to check the data for one round and then input data into the Google form. So we also had to make sure that the data population officers can also put in the data into the right box, into the right parameters and right of the questionnaire, and that data can be seen real time. You see, from the project headquarters, from AIT at the same time from the US, from the Washington DC as well. However, before it is being used for analysis, AIT was responsible for we say cleaning the data. We have to recheck the data, and that is very important that we have to verify the data before confirming that data can be used for data analysis. And the last part is actually we also learn from countries. I mean, the partner in Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Thailand also, that there is a evolution of the management of the data centers. At the end of the day, with a lot of paperwork that we have to do, we have to systematize them, and we have seen a very good evidence from Indian side on the systematic arrangement of the paper data, and that's why they can have a good code and they can track the data. Traceability of the data is also very important. When we found something doubtful, so we can go back to the data set. So we mix between the papers and also the internet-based data inputs that can be see real time, so that at one day Special Olympics will come to AIT, hey, that data was input wrong, so we have to go back and trace to the raw data and recheck and then share with the data, I mean the headquarters. So this is the process of the data collection that we had. So a lot of training, building capacity, and this make people get insight of how they work. As Professor Kapana said, they get insights continuously. They are working toward the inclusion for special students. So next, I would like to request Ms. Rachaniwan Bullakun to share some of the impacts that the Special Olympics Thailand can observe after they run through this young athlete program. So Kun Rachaniwan Bullakun, please.
Thank you, Kun Borawe, and thank you for inviting me to join this session. I will be addressing two issues. The first one is how young athletes benefit special education centers. And the second question is how to ensure sustainability for inclusion in Thailand from the perspective of Special Olympics Thailand. So as you are aware, Special Olympics is a non-profit organization with a mission to create better lives for people with intellectual disabilities through the power of sports and health programs. Young Athlete is Special Olympics Early Childhood Development Program, and it has been implemented in 75 provinces in Thailand through the Special Education Center. So of all the young athletes model that Rebecca mentioned earlier, there's a home and then the school and the community models. The Thailand model starts at the school and then extend to the home and then to the community. So the first benefit for our provincial special education center is that the young athlete is a powerful teaching tool and resource. The program develops a number of necessary skills for children in these centers, impacting their physical health, their growth, their emotional capacity, and their social abilities. And these skill improvements can be significant. For many young children, it prepares them for enrollment into primary schools, mostly to special schools, while a few may be accepted into integrated schools where they will share classes with non-disabled children. The second benefit is that through play activities, the natural interaction between children with and without intellectual disabilities create understanding and acceptance, leading to social inclusion for the future generation. Many families with non-disabled children have not previously heard of the special education centers, nor do they know any parent with intellectually disabled children. Therefore, Special Olympics Young Athlete Program creates more public awareness for the center's role in these provinces. And finally, the Young Athletes Home Program fits in with the special education's policy of adapting the home into a classroom and empowering parents to become teachers. In the context of children with intellectual disabilities, family involvement with the children's learning and practicing is very important. The Young Athletes Program encourages families' participation in all their children's activities, including creating homemade kits and play equipment from household materials. So playing with your child and having fun together are an integral part of the Young Athletes Program. And this also leads to family involvement in other aspects that the center sets out for their students, such as speaking, reading, writing, and self-care skills. So in conclusion, special education centers gain additional teaching resources. They receive more public awareness, and they have the means to develop capacity building for families of their students. To the question of how to ensure sustainability for inclusion in the context of Special Olympics Thailand, social inclusion is one of the key components of the Special Olympics movement. And learning about it can start at any age. So in Thailand, as in other countries, inclusion can mean athletes with and without intellectual disability gets the chance to play sports together, sharing equal responsibilities in the playing field. Inclusion can mean empowering Special Olympics athletes with leadership and social skills so that they can become a board member or a working committee member, or they can take part as volunteers alongside the general public. It can also mean that families bring their children to play with a neighbor's child who has intellectual disability, as in the young athlete community model. And finally, inclusion could mean giving our athletes a voice in the Special Olympics movement, that all the programming and all activities are dictated by their needs, that they have an opinion, as well as the confidence to voice that opinion. Social inclusion is embedded into all of Special Olympics Thailand's projects and activities. And to sustain these ideals, we must change the attitude of the society to give people with intellectual disabilities the opportunities to reach their potential and to become valued members of each community. Through Special Olympics' unique organizational structure, most of our programs are delivered not by our staff, which numbered only 5 persons in Thailand's national office, but through volunteers and local partnerships. By personally experiencing Special Olympics program, each volunteer or each partner becomes a stakeholder in our movement. Ultimately, we hope that the ownership of these projects within each community, within each education center, and within each family will sustain the Special Olympics program in Thailand. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Khun Rachiniwan, for briefing about the example, the impacts. So now we would like to show you the short video how the Young Athletes program has been conducted in Thailand special schools.
The Young Athletes program is our sport and play program for children with and without intellectual disability between the ages of 2 to 7. It gives them an early start in life, and it creates an inclusive environment that will promote acceptance and respect.
Young Athletes is an important component of our national program in Thailand. In the past 3 years, we have been able to expand this program to 75 out of 77 provinces nationwide.
เอกลักษณ์ของกีฬาอนุชนเนี่ยนะคะเด็กๆเนี่ยสามารถที่ว่าจะมีส่วนร่วมในการคิดมีส่วนร่วมในการทำกิจกรรมเอาอุปกรณ์ที่มีอยู่ในห้องอะค่ะเหมือนขวดน้ำที่เหลือใช้แบบนี้เรามาใส่น้ำเราเอามาวางแล้วก็เราสามารถให้เด็กใช้ดัดแปลงได้ค่ะ
หลังจากที่พาน้องเข้ามาร่วมกิจกรรมนะคะคุณแม่ก็เห็นว่าน้องเนี่ยสามารถอยู่กับคนอื่นได้มากขึ้นความประทับใจในโครงการนี้นะคะก็คือเด็กพิเศษในห้องเรียนนะคะมีพัฒนาการที่ดีขึ้นเหมือนน้องฟ้าใสอะค่ะเมื่อก่อนน้องฟ้าใสเป็นคนที่เงียบไม่พูดแต่ตอนนี้น้องฟ้าใสพูดเป็นประโยคได้แล้วค่ะ
เมื่อก่อนน้องตั้งแต่เกิดมาก็เป็นโรคหัวใจรั่ว2 รูกินยาอยู่ประมาณสัก2 ปีกว่าแต่น้องออกกำลังกายวิ่งเล่นทุกวันเป็นประจำหลังจากนั้นไม่ได้กินยามาเกือบ3 ปีแล้วนับ1 ถึง 10ไม่ค่อยได้แต่ทุกวันนี้นับได้ตั้งแต่หลังจากเข้าโครงการนี้มาแล้ว แล้วก็พูดภาษาอังกฤษได้ เป็นบางคำ
Thank you อย่างเดียว
Thank you.
Young athletes gives families a ray of hope because they have probably seen a life of uncertainties and now seeing what the child is capable of achieving.
My ultimate goal would be that one day we would have a Special Olympics athlete representing Thailand in the World Games who was first introduced to the movement through Young Athletes program.
Thank you very much, Kun Rachiniwan, and also Special Olympics Thailand. So you see, this type of the program was running in 4 countries, and in every country we have a Special Olympics of Bangladesh is running the program in Bangladesh, and Special Olympics Pakistan is running the projects in Pakistan, and AIT is also working with them for data collection. I just want to highlight some of the important points that Ms. Rachiniwan just mentioned a while ago. Number 1 is about the possibility of the integration of the intervention into the ongoing school programs. There is a possibility, there could be a possibility. For the implementation of the intervention, is very important that the acceptance of the organizations in the country would, carry on the activities based on their, ongoing activities. But for the evaluations perspective, maybe we also have to be very careful in terms of that, how we are going to specify the area where it is having the clear cut of different interventions, before interventions and new interventions. So this is something that we also have to keep in mind. We have to discuss with the projects, interventions owner, and also a possibility of integration in that. So on the project management side, is maybe more efficient, more effective, but maybe on the evaluation side, we also have to consider many perspectives. But from these evaluations, we have the strategies to be able to measure the impact that coming from the young athlete intervention. So this is one of the important statistical reasons that one has to keep in mind, being the practical evaluation team. The second one is about the co-management of the children with disability. So it is very important that the local team, you can see that the local team themselves, work together, and they are able to, interact with the children with disability, intellectual disability, and that there is a learning process in between where they can also observe the future change. All right. So in Thailand, it's very special case that we fix the system as a special center, special education only. So that's why this can be the place where the engagement of the actors, parents, caregivers, and others, can be, in the scope that we can manage. And this is another important thing. And at the end of the day, the inclusion is provisions of the common space for the kids to have fun and healthy. So for AIT, when we cannot address any questions or, comments or observations, at the end of the day, the key measures is that, are they happy? Are they skillful in playing sports? And actually that is the project is aiming for. And actually that also direct the theory of change of the project evaluations to the ultimate aims of the social inclusions. Because when we are doing this, we should not forget the spirit of the intervention, although we are coming from the evaluator perspective. But the spirit is children's, they have fun and they are healthy. So it is also very important sometimes very much to stick to the theoretical perspective of the evaluation. But at the same time, when we are struggle, we also have to check whether the measurements that we are doing is going toward having fun and healthy or not. So this is very interesting points that are raised by Ms. Rachini. I would also now coming to the end of my presentation, sharing some of the challenge that we have had, and also some of the colleagues over there already shared this challenge. The first one is the cultural differences. There are many cultural issues, there are many cultural factors that makes us to change the way we ask questions, make us to change the language we have to translate, also make us to approach that we are, collecting data from the audience. So this cultural aspect is everywhere, whether in Thailand, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, India, is everywhere. And it is also location specific or, a local specific. So you cannot take it for granted. You just make a minor change of a major form of the questionnaires, and that can be used for all 3,000 is not the case. Actually is specific to the local locations, geographical locations. The second one is that the geographical locations and also the natural calamity, India and Bangladesh has faced a lot of difficulty in accessing to the site to collect data, and this very common for us is to anticipate that and put that into the risk and then replan. Actually, we are replanning every 2 weeks. And then the third is the adequate cooperation of the family members. So I think, on the first survey of the pre-stage, the first survey, the family members may be very enthusiastic to provide information. And then after 8 weeks, we have to come down and we have to collect data. Now, it is kind of repeatedly done and, coming to the same question. So we have also to prepare and create understandings of the informants that why we have to do so many times so that they are, fully participating in giving a very, very genuine answers. Language barriers and tools and measures. The tools and measure is very important. As Kun Rachiniwan mentioned, that we can provide materials. We have the material from Special Olympics to play sports, but in many cases also the Special Olympics also encourage the family to find the low-cost material for children to play sports. So whether or not the variation of the materials type will affect the measurements when we go for the measurement of the technicalities of the evaluation. So we also have to have a kind of weight that we have to see how this would be, applicable. Is maybe come down to the common point that we have to cut and accept that this could be acceptable because there are even more risk if we don't choose that way. All right, gap of communication, also dealing with the target audience where we have to get information from other people. This is something that is very, very interesting, where we are getting the insights of the children from the reflections and feeling of the parents. Then there are many lessons learned. The first lesson learned is we have to do the comparison, and impact evaluation is about a comparison between before and after. How many times you compare doesn't matter, but actually the approach is you have the pre and then the post. All right, so that is very important. The implementation guideline is very important. I mean, the implementation guideline is only the code of conduct that one has to have, the headquarters have to have, so that we make sure at the first layer that the message sent to the co-researchers and enumerators are the same. And the second stage, they would practice the same way. So I think the starting point is the implementation guideline for the research that we have to produce and make sure it is understood by everybody. And then the measurements, the enumerators are understanding the spirit of that measurements. Although they are not in the field of the special education or physical education, they have to have a kind of a quick learning on that, so that they are, when they ask the interview, they put spirit in and they know exactly. It's not that the key informant will ask you or respond to you, but you can, make the discussions and information gathering more natural, and then you get, information in a very pure way. The fourth is about our lesson learned about using the Google Documents as a form. Actually, we did this before COVID-19. So it's actually just to decide the traveling costs that we have to travel to different countries to, manage the data collection. So that's why we are introducing, the Google Forms for facilitate the data inputs and data processing. So that's why it's helped a lot. It helps a lot. It can be complicated, but it's help. It save time, and also it can be go into the a final format very quickly. Although you have a learning curve of 3-4 months to learn this, but after 4 months it is okay. And then also as I said, the research question has to be very comprehensive, very bold, and few, but it allows you to break down into different dots. And also it should also allow you to connect those dots when you analyze it. So few research questions, few evaluation questions can be break down into different indicators, and also allow you to go to fun and happiness, sustainability, efficiencies, relevance, impact. So those are the things that we have to plan in the research design. Everybody, the beauty of this project is actually AIT, MIT, Dhaka University, Punjab University, they learn the process of inclusions with the special children. So the Young Athletes program educate us how to open for special groups of people to make the world better, our global community become real global community. And most important things in this, project management is project planning and project replanning every 2 weeks. Project planning is not end after planning, it is replanning every 2 weeks. And it's very important to put a continuous feedbacks and reporting system every 2 weeks and adjust the plan. So actually adjusting the plan itself is not easy, and also taking time, because you need to get what you get today, what is your aim, and you can see the gap, and then you can adjust the next aim with the gaps. So this is something that we can also keep in mind, that is need a lot of replanning, and it is true that we have to replan in order to make this one interesting, and also finish on the timeline, especially on the project evaluation. In conclusions, the impact evaluation is a business about must-have data to compare before and after. It's a must-have. It's no compromise. It's up to you to decide how you are going to manage that. Second, there are various reasons that scientific tools should be modified best to suit the local context. So one of the questions that raised in the Q&A box is that we have to find out the well-proved scientific tool by literature review, and see whether it is applicable to the local situation. And if it needs adjustment, we have to have a committee to agree on that adjustment on the cultural perspective, adjustment on the technicality, adjustment on the language. We have to adjust on that. But I think the first rule of thumb is to try your best to get the tools which is proof on the scientific basis, and then down the line we work on the practical basis. Okay, I don't mean that we cannot create your own scales for measurement. We also did create that, but first we have to stick to the scientific tool as a starting point. The number 3, social interventions can start from smallest unit. So when we are talking about the SDG inclusion, we no need to think about the big things like communities, like districts, anything like that. We can even think about the child centers, the families, as the starting point to determine how inclusion would go. So I think that enlightens us a little bit on that. Inclusiveness is a global terminology, but it can be done from the family level. Last is, we may not be able to quantify socioeconomic data, but we can find out the association of the social behaviors that can answer many questions, whether it is economics, finance, or social. So it is very important that engineers, scientists, entomologists has to also be able to have the social science spirit in there, so that they can make sense of the connection of the social science indicators with the science subjects, and that will help a lot in terms of the impact to socials and bigger society, and also at the global level. If I don't do this, I think AIT will not be in the era of COVID-19. So this is a part of the food for thoughts. If it is still in the COVID-19, what will be the resiliencies and response that we have to prepare for the programs like this? One is health screening, that I'm sure that many Special Olympics national already did that and already have been doing that. Number two is practice at home with the family members. So it's actually a big opportunity that you can now, have the interventions at home and family members, so that they can start, create the power of inclusions in a bigger way. And the third is use the online media. That's, of course, I have said about that. Family health education, now it is the time that they are heads up, and also they can, have the health education, because people now have a lot of cautions about the COVID-19 and other emerging diseases. So it's a right time. As I said, so I believe that this is useful. We spent 1 hour 40 minutes, and I hope this is useful. And I've seen 4 or 5 questions there, and I believe that some of the question has been addressed by myself, so that if you still would like me to address, let me look at the questions. How can we access the tool used in helping children with special needs? So actually, how you are going to address the tool? So you are researchers. We have to do a lot of readings in the libraries, or in the Google research, so that pick up the most updated articles on that particular domains of inclusions, and track back into the old tools. All right. So don't track back very long. Use the most updated tools and consult with your project's owner, project intervention initiations. That will be very helpful. Okay. Educational system, is that crucial? My thinking that education system in general is inclusive. It is still an ongoing research already done. Crucial to my thinking that education system in general is inclusive. In many countries, not. For example, I can quote Thailand. Thailand, we don't have a comprehensive school that provide a non-ID and ID children together. It's only a program where they can study together, but we don't have the special school that they study together, because I think the readiness is there, the curriculum is not there yet, and also the teachers are not trained that way. So the integration of both is still a long way to go. One of the colleagues has asked why we have to involve the non-ID student into that, because non-ID student consider as they are one of the community member, all right? And they are the community member who is the receiving intervention, or who may not receive intervention. So it depends on how you define them. If he or she do not receive interventions, they will be in the control group. If they are into interventions, they are part of the, your research group. So both sides, we have the non-ID student both in the control group and in the intervention groups. So this is the way we do it. And, as I said, this one, how public library can help in such activities. So I don't know about these public libraries, but I think the most crucial thing is that these study resources should be localized and be able to access to the school teachers and caregivers, so that they can access the information how to improve the skill of the kids, and also how to take care of the health of the kids. At the end of the day, these sport activities start from healthy. So health screening is very important in most cases. And in many countries, we don't have health screening. That is one thing. The second thing, how to make them improve, you see. So this, resource information would be very useful for this type of intervention and this type of evaluation. So if you have any further questions, please write to us. You can, I guess we have your email, you have my email, you can write to AIT. We are happy to jointly with our partners to give you the practical answers. And we thank you a lot for your participation today. We appreciate a lot that you are interested in these subjects, and we believe that this subject is very important for every professionals nowadays. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.